morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Paul Verderosa and Andy Serling. As we get closer to the weekend, a Friday card here, an 8-race card. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Everything's good.
Good. I'm glad to see you back.
Avoid the rain this morning.
Yeah.
Track is still fast. We are expecting to get some showers this afternoon. How much they will or won't affect the racetrack, hard to really know. But as of now, we are fast, and we'll see if we get some showers later. Nothing major, though, expected. Expected to be actually a lot worse than rain this morning. We'll head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, use the promo code BONUS200, and we'll match for $200 of your initial deposit. Check out track stats when you are over there as well. We also have a bonus for doubles, I think, today. 20% bonus doubles at Oaklawn, so you'll opt in for that at Naira Bets, playing Oaklawn. Of course, Oaklawn is back racing today. They had just a huge deluge of rain yesterday that resulted in a cancellation of their card. That card from yesterday will be made up on Monday. We have a cross-country Big Five, 2 at Aqueduct, races 7 and 8, and 6, 7, 8 at Oaklawn as well. And all those races will be shown on America's Day at the Races from 3 to 6 on FS2. Greg and Maggie and I will be here. The MIG is down at Oaklawn Park. All right, race number 1. We'll start with Catchphrase, who's clearly going to be the favorite and is the horse to beat. But I got to tell you, Paul, I can't take a horse that has now lost 2 races without really any viable excuse at odds on. And I'm just a little tired of him. Losing to Splashy did not do a lot for me.
The only thing that worries me is exactly what you just said, because even in the debut find, you know, she went fast. She had every right to get tired with the pace she set there a little bit. But Granadillo,
7 furlongs.
Yeah, you know, but Granadillo ran like 7 races already. And then next time out, okay, she maybe needed to be a little bit more. She looked fitter last time, but she went right to the top. And she kind of stopped again late, got caught by Splashy, who was 0 for 12 at that point coming in.
The other thing about her is, and she may well win this race. I'm in no way suggesting she's not the horse to beat, because she is. She's now a 5-year-old mare. She didn't start racing until late in her 4-year-old season. So the likelihood that she's going to start really improving seems pretty slim to me. Now, that doesn't mean that the current version of Catchphrase isn't good enough to win this race, but I couldn't in all good conscience put her on top, even though I have no argument she's the horse to beat.
Yeah, and it's hard, too. And I wonder, too, with the blinkers coming off, too, I mean, are they going to try and get her to relax a little bit without them now, as opposed to
she's going to go to the front.
She's going to go to the front.
Does.
You know, it's the same.
They're grasping at straws.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't blame them.
No, I don't either, especially with the way she ran. You know, running fast and running off early on. So, I mean, will she go to the top? Maybe wire this field? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I put her on top just on base what's in here. I mean, the horse you have on top is, I thought, the other most likely winner.
Well, we'll get to her in a second, because I want to talk about Long-Legged Queen, who's clearly the second choice. You look at the morning line; she's a significant second choice, and I imagine she will be. Now, we'll show her losing. And this was a very tough beat. Sinead was a Jorge Abreu horse that had been touted before its first start, had a miserable trip from post 12 going long at Saratoga on closing day, and then ran really well to beat her. But that's a horse that might have some ability, and I'm not knocking her, but I think she's a much better turf horse. When you look up that race at Finger Lakes, her first race, I think it's a lousy effort, and I don't think that 66 Beyer holds up. For instance, the winner ran a 72 and followed up with a 59 and a 43. I'm a little bit dubious of whether this is a dirt horse.
It was one of those horses, too, that Linda claimed and just never panned out for her either. And even the third-place finisher ran third in a non-winners of 1 here, but it wasn't a third that wowed you.
No.
So,
well, the third horse came back to win, it shows. And if you look it up, she ran 13 Beyer points worse.
Yeah.
So that's a race that looks more like a 50 than a 66.
Yeah.
And the other thing about her is she's going to be in that position of chasing. Now, you could say, well, if the one collapses, she's the one that's nearest to inherit. And maybe that'll turn out to be true. But do I really want this horse to be chasing the one around and put that one away? I don't, which is why I went to calling an audible, because I can't take Foxy Francis off the one race. I mean, I suppose anything's possible. And to be fair with Foxy Francis, the horse is moving in Antonio Aragaga's barn. This horse has been firing on all cylinders lately. And this horse was in a super tough maiden race first time out. So this is a fuzzy, and if somebody wanted to get wild and take a shot with this horse, I get it. Eastern Star, I've had a long relationship with Eastern Star, and she's just not a winning type.
Yeah.
And she's a forwardly placed horse, whereas calling an audible's not. And I thought she could sit back. She gets a significant rider change. Not only do I think Sofia Vives rides well, she had a rider that's obviously shown that he's not riding right now in the circuit. I don't think that he's just not in the league to ride here.
Yeah.
And this horse has figures that are fast enough to win the race. and I think might be 3-1 to 7 to 4-1, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and I would assume too would not drift 11 lengths back like the last time because that ride last time was just preposterous. It's
Well,
not like,
he
yeah,
shouldn't be right. I mean,
yeah,
he's just not. I'm sorry, but he's not good enough to ride.
Yeah, and he was just ridiculously wide with this horse every step, and it's not like the horse took herself out of the race. She just, with him, was just all the way at the back. So I agree with you. I thought it was a lot of 1s and 5s.
We'll see what happens in race number 1, where Catchphrase will be a big price, and we'll see if she can begin her career with 3 odds-on efforts and see if she can actually get a victory today. She is the horse to beat. Race number 2, well, I don't think the scratch affected this race.
No.
You know, I don't think it's just Linda Rice, because I think there are things to say about the other 2 horses that don't make them impossible. Sure's Delight gets a trainer switch, but with all due respect to Carlos Martin, Rick Dutrow, Mike Maker had this horse in the last few starts. Not exactly an easy switch, and a horse like Shoplifting's the horse to beat. We'll show her last race, but she's another one that is piling up the losses at short prices.
And it's not like she doesn't run in her races and doesn't run decent enough races. She runs good efforts. She just doesn't have that killer instinct. Like, she's almost content to end up running second to whoever it is that's either in front of her or ends up passing her. So I don't have a problem with her. I just have a problem with the seconds piling up for her.
Yeah, no, I agree completely, and I think she is the horse to beat, and I suspect she's a little bit more reliable than her entry mate because, as we'll go very quickly, the replay of Tipple last time, I kind of prefer Tipple's race last time, but the problem is she's now making her 3rd start, and she hasn't run in 6 months. Do you really think that Linda, after this horse ran an 81 buyer and lost to a heavily bet maiden from Klarovich and Chad Brown? Do you really think Linda thought, I think I'll wait until February to run this one again? Now, maybe she did put away and say, I'll do well with this horse in the winter, and she does think that way. But I don't know. This horse ran the kind of race that you would think this horse might have been favored in a maiden race the next time out, right?
And not only that, but if you really think about it, she probably cost herself the race because if she would have kept a straight path, she probably would have beat that horse that day up at Saratoga too. So I agree with you. At just the end of the day, I kind of felt like seen a couple of the others, and I kind of trust this horse a little bit more being forward in here and might be able to. With horses like Shoplifting, who just seems content to run second. Cheryl's Delight's another one that doesn't have that killer instinct to put a field away.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, so, and then, Sandy Satire's back up in class, but, I mean, is she going to run better here off of that last effort? Was it the drop down that woke her up last time as opposed to,
I bet Cheryl's Delight in that race 3 back.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most ridiculous hang jobs you'll ever see.
Yeah.
I agree. And she's not, she's not even close on figures.
Yeah.
So you're asking her to get a lot better and or hope both the Linda horses don't show up.
Yeah, it's tough.
It'll be hard for Linda not to win this race, and we'll see which one gets the money. She may well run 1-2, a mile and an eighth for race number 3. And to me, there's a weird situation in this race because no self-respecting horse player would bet on Magic 8 Ball. We'll take a look at the last race. I mean, this was the race that absolutely confirmed one of the goldest rails, and we can wait. We'll go to the replay of the last race. That really confirmed one of the goldest rails of all time, and this is no crying for me. I bet her because you knew she'd be the lone speed. Look at the rest of her career. I mean, she's not a dirt horse. She's faint-hearted, and she not only wanted a mile, but she just drew away from them.
Yeah.
This is not an indication that she wants to go longer and control on the front end. This is a horse that took advantage of an enormous bias. So I'm going to disagree with my friend David Aragona here, who picked Soundbite, and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, and I do understand that Soundbite is an interesting horse in this race, but to be part of an entry,
it's going to kill the price. Yeah.
It's going to take at least a point, if not 2 points, off of your price for a horse that you would never want to bet on. So for me, while, I don't disagree that Soundbite could win, I could never, ever, ever, ever bet him.
No, I have Soundbite third, but I just feel like, too, if they were split, this would be a much better proposition because I agree with you when it comes to entries and that. So I just couldn't take Soundbite.
She's a very interesting claim.
No, she is.
Sandy Goldfarb and Michelle Nevin. But the problem, and she may well win this race, but I don't care. If I had a big opinion to pick 5 and I like some price in some other race, I wouldn't let this horse beat me. But so far, we're starting out pretty chalky. I guess if I singled the 5 in the first leg, and I don't really know because race 4, you've got 2 major contenders, and it's hard to go really past them. And race 5 is a 4-horse field, so you're going to have to take you're not. This is not one where I want to have chalk, 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 chalk.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, You saw the short prices relatively short prices in the late Big Five yesterday, and it paid twice the parlay. And one of the reasons it did is there are too many people that are losing their money listening to terrible advice on the internet. That's a truism around the world.
Period. Yeah,
people making
that's
terrible
just in
choices
general.
based
Yeah.
on bad information they're getting
Yeah.
on the internet, and this is one of them. I don't know exactly how I look at it. I guess I'd use them maybe if I singled the 5 in the first leg, but I don't know that I would want to do that. Maybe I will.
Yeah, because to me, I just I want no part of Magic 8 Ball like you. So
Right.
it just makes no sense. It really just makes no sense. And for people that say let's see her actually repeat that, she was never capable of running it in the first place.
No, she's never,
So,
ever,
yeah.
ever shown even a scintilla
Right.
to suggest that that's
Yeah.
the case. And it's not like she didn't have the lead in a mile race back on the slop in a 5-horse
Yeah.
field at Belmont, and she ran abysmally. If she wins, I think we're both prepared to lose, but our entry mate's the
Right.
right one in here. We have both picked the 5. Dazzy, go ahead.
When you look at Dazzy, you might say that you think that she's going off of form. I don't believe she is. I mean, I think 3 starts back at a mile and an eighth. She actually ran okay here. Ruben Silvera had a really good hold of her, and she just really didn't kick on all
But
that.
why would somebody say she's going off form?
I mean, if you look, the start after that when she ran, she got
She got the same buyer figure. She got the same time form U.S. figures.
Right, and then the last start, she actually stumbled badly and fell down to her nose. But if you're actually not digging deep into the races and just looking at the paper,
What percentage of the pool? Well, the paper says she stumbled. What percentage of the pool isn't aware that she had a valid excuse last time?
no, last time. But I'm talking about if you just go back and look at the 2 starts before that without actually looking at anything.
But
you just
they're
think that
similar
she-
figs to what she's been running.
Right, but she also ran 4th. People are just looking at the 4th, maybe.
No,
That
they
was
aren't.
my whole point.
They aren't.
Okay.
You're talking as though the people who are betting these races are stupid.
No.
The biggest, well,
No,
you
no.
are. But the biggest mistake that you could ever make is think that your competition, the betting pools, is stupid. And someone could say, well, it's CAW money. That's not in the win pool. But
No, it's not in the
it's
win pool.
not that this. Yes, the CAW money is extremely smart money.
Yeah.
But so is the rest of the pool, and that's one of the things about playing in New York. The bettors in New York have always been smart. Yes, there were advantages back in the day when there was significant money, when there was no simulcasting, and there was significant money from New York City OTB, and that was dumb money. That money's gone from
Yeah.
the pools. There is
Fair.
smart money
That's
in
a
the
fair
pool,
point,
and I
yeah.
don't think anybody's looking at Dazzy and thinking she's got off form.
Well, like I said, regardless of anyway, legitimate excuse last time went down to her nose, and even the 3 starts back at a mile and eight, she ran just fine here. So for me, I just thought she'd be a little bit forward in here, and she would get a good trip, and I want her off the last race.
Yeah, I want her too. I mean, I don't want a horse claimed away from Linda Rice on the rail, who did get good, and I'm not saying she can't win, but I don't really like that. And she was running against some inferior horses. Southampton Dock obviously seems to be a turf horse. I don't think we're getting 9-2 on Dazzy, but I guess it depends how much money the entry takes. But Backstretch Rose is
Yeah,
the
she
horse to
takes the
beat
money,
in this
yeah.
race. I mean, we'll take a look at, I think it's her last race or two back when she lost by a nose. She lost to Elliptic.
Yeah, that was a
I know
nasty
Elliptic's
beat.
kind of gone the wrong direction, but what price would Elliptic, especially in this form, have been in this race?
Oh yeah, very short price.
This horse could be even money or 6-5 in here, and she is the horse to beat, unless you have an issue with her getting a mile and an eighth. Or
Yeah.
the fact that she's got 9 seconds and thirds and just 2 wins.
Yeah, no, and I have her second in here, and she runs a race. It's just she seems to kind of finish underneath in some of these races more times than not. But she definitely can run in here. I have no knocks against her at all.
She's the horse to beat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I don't think there's any argument against it. But she is piling up the seconds, and she's got to get the mile and eighth. Army Mule is a really funny sire. He's got a little of that Speightstown to him, in that his horses. He was a sprinter who unfortunately just couldn't stay on the
Yeah.
racetrack, but he had as much ability as about any horse we've seen in 20 years. But he's produced horses that have done everything.
Yeah, which is
kind of
kind
an
of
under the
interesting
radar
when you think
sire.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his horses have been sound too and run well
A
too.
Frisian
considering
Fire, right?
That's
I mean,
yeah,
you
that's
would never
that's one,
expect
yeah,
it.
Yeah, that you wouldn't think that came out of nowhere, and it's just funny how some of them go on to be that they couldn't stay on the track,
Turf,
but they're other
long,
turf, dirt,
it doesn't
long,
seem to
short,
matter.
doesn't seem to matter. So yeah,
He's one horse that I regret wasn't able to stay sound, because
Yeah,
that
'cause he was
Carter he
good.
ran
Yeah, he was
a
excellent, yeah.
huge effort, and
Yeah.
obviously he just didn't have the physical abilities to stay on the racetrack.
Yeah.
See what happens in race number 4. Paul and I are going to try to beat the favorites with Dazzy. Race number 4. If somebody wins this race other than Castle Island and Liberty to Bayou, I don't know who it's going to be. We'll start with Liberty to Bayou, who I have second, you have on top. You apparently don't love Castle Island here. We'll get to that. But I like Liberty to Bayou too, and I guess of the two, you're a little more confident that he'll be okay at the distance.
Yeah, I think the distance will be fine even on the cutback, and I know got a good pace set up in a race that collapsed because there was a lot of action early going on to the half and beyond. But he made that first sustained wide move and drew off, and this horse has shown up in the last 4 starts for Linda, and I don't think the cutback's going to hurt this horse at all today, and has an outside post, and if this horse runs any resemblance of the races that he's been running, he's going to be tough.
Yeah, he was a they didn't know last time, huh?
Yeah, really.
I remember I told a friend of mine I was going to bet him. For some reason, I wasn't in that day, and I told my friend Sean I was going to bet his horse. I said, yeah, I'm afraid he's going to be like 3-1 or 7-2, and I'm going to bet him. Horse was 9-1 going to the gate, ended up 750-1, amazing price. I took Castle Island, just take the other horse in this race. Thought he ran very well last time. He just ran against a horse Paddington that ran huge to beat him, and Brad Cox doesn't have great numbers cutting back, but I'm going to trust that he's going to run well for Brad in this race like he did last time out and took him over Liberty Bale. I don't have a strong opinion, frankly. I just didn't want to pick the one you picked. We've agreed on enough horses.
Yeah.
I was somewhat of a coin flip, so I went in this direction, but I don't really think there's a significant reason to like one that much strongly over the other one.
No, I mean, he set the
Well,
pace.
you're against him, so
well,
explain
I
why.
split the difference, to be honest with you. I really just, set the pace, got past, cuts back today. Paddington, as you said, dropped, in class for Linda and sat right off. I wonder, I guess, I don't know. For me, I don't trust the cutback with Brad with this horse a little bit. But really, beyond Liberty
He's
to
shown to be better going longer, so
Yeah.
that's not an unreasonable opinion to have.
So it's
all his figures are better
going
going
long.
All
So
of them.
and with Augustine Regis splitting them, just kind of rolled the dice last time in a race where the two pace setters kind of backed
He
up
was
and finished second
terrible
to
in
last.
there. He got to his comfort zone, the rail, which is where he wants to be,
And he just
he
didn't
really
really-
had nothing.
Yeah.
I was disappointed in his last effort. I
mean,
know he ran his best figure ever, but he got exactly where he wants to be on the
he didn't
racetrack, and I'm not a fan. Narciso Dali is back. I mean, at least Narciso Dali is one that has back races that say he has a chance to win this
He was
race. 'Cause he
game,
does have
yeah.
figures in the 80s.
Yeah, no, and he was game last time, and I know the favorite didn't show up,
in
but he
April.
kind of turned that horse away, and got beat by a horse who cut back from a mile and 3/16. That was
Well,
a decent horse that day, won back. So
There's this Chris Englehart stat, which is now overall 6 to 12 month layoffs in dirt sprints. Chris is 19 for 92 with an ROI of around $1.79, $1.78. The problem is his stats in New York. After yesterday, where Rollo lost, we'll get to that in a second, he's now 0 for 18, and only 4 of them have hit the board. Well, Rollo was in a 4-horse field and got loose in the lead,
Yeah.
and he still was no match whatsoever. So this barn has just horrible numbers in New York of layoffs, and I'm not saying they're trying to lose, but when they start getting to that, it's not just the 0 for 18, it's the 4 hitting the board.
Right.
For a trainer like Chris Englehart, who's a winning trainer, and he's got good numbers at Finger Lakes, the horses he's run here have needed a race, basically.
yeah, and basically it screams like a prep race. For
And
a
he
lot
was
of them.
scratched 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, he was entered. He was.
He was
entered
definitely in
before.
a
Yeah,
race. No, he was
definitely- yeah.
scratched. He was a late scratch, or
Yeah.
a morning scratch. See what happens. Probably a much of a 2-horse race, though Paul is a little bit against the 4. We'll see if that's the case. We'll be back with the late pick 4 after a quick break.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at nairabets.com.
We're back. Paul and Andy talk about today's card, race number 5. Well,
Yeah.
we lost 3 out of 7, including the horse who was probably the horse to beat and Find Your Joy, which changes it so that whomever you're taking in here is probably not going to have a whole lot to recommend.
Yeah.
You're going to start with Laughter, and you're going to try to get a mile with Laughter.
That's my only chance I got. So last time got into that kind of disputed pace with long shot bad connection in there and got picked off by Everly's Girl, got a really good ride that day. So one of the siblings routed. I'm just hoping that this horse can get in front in here, or if anybody decides that they really want to go on a mission, just
Well,
sit off
isn't
of.
Everly's Gal faster, and doesn't Carol have to go from the inside? You
well,
don't think she's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I just
Maybe
that
she's
was
in
my
front.
whole
Manny
thing.
is
Yeah.
a much more aggressive
Yeah,
rider, so she
so
probably
I
does
just,
clear.
I mean, my bet was either laying up top or just being right off of the pace, and with this horse and hopefully getting this horse a mile in here. I kind of lost some of my picks when it came out, so I really don't have much excitement in this race now after that. So
I scratched into her for second. I
Yeah.
had picked the race 3, 5, 7. I get it. Listen. There's little you can say negative. I mean, I don't think there's a horse in this race that has no chance to win given the scratches.
Right.
I'm just going to go for wait. What is it? Wait.
don't tell me.
Don't tell me.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry for the announcers. You know what? At the end of the day, this horse is the one that's dropping. I know Everly's Gal. I know these horses, Everly's Gal and Laughter in. Well, Laughter didn't, but Everly's Gal did. But that doesn't matter. This is a 10,000 claimer. And she's the one that's dropping the bottom level for the first time. So for me, that's a big part of it. Also, she broke out and was stayed the start last time, broke about a half length slow. She was wide around the racetrack. I think this was one of those days where the riders were confusing themselves into thinking the rail was dead and there was nothing wrong with it, because horses did run well enough inside. But she was running against significantly better horses than these. And I simply think she's dropping down to the lowest level for the first time. And to me, that's an automatic play.
Yeah,
That's why she's the morning line favorite.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair for her. She just needs to get out of the gate because her last 3 have not been that good early. But
Yeah, that's fair. I agree.
Yeah,
She's a gate issue. I agree with you on that.
And I wish I could like Everly's Girl more, but she just ran terrible last time coming back in 2 weeks, because the start 2 starts back was a good effort when dropped to this level. And Collect That got good again. I mean, because we hadn't seen that kind of race from Collect That in a long time.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting in this race is that the only horse that has legitimate experience, albeit not running that well, going long is Raw Power.
Yeah.
The rest of these horses are all sprinters that are stretching out, and it's not like there's great efforts. But Wait, Don't Tell Me does have a second at Finger Lakes at 1 mile and 70 yards and a respectable enough effort. So that gives me a little more to back up. The other 2 a mile might be uncharted territory for them. And listen, in this field, anyone can win.
Yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah, this is not exactly one of the stronger races we'll see all winter, to say the least. Race number 6. Well, we both agree on Patty Brown Eyes. We'll show her race 2 back, and you can tell us why you like her.
I feel like, first of all, the drop down here suits her. She's been freshened up since her last race, and 2 starts back, she's had a really good trip in that maiden special weight win, got the job done. And then last time out, she just didn't look comfortable at all, and she ran into a race where Patricia.
Well, hang on. She was running last time out against horses that are in a
Oh yeah, I was just
completely
going to say
different
Patricia. I was going to say Patricia Ann got really good and is doing well. Lady Mine had that awful start, was taken up, came back and ran second, doing Lady Mine things coming out of the gate. This is a completely different field here, and I don't think 7 furlongs is going to bother this horse at all. And to be honest, I mean, she's run the best races when she's run well and didn't have any issues in the race.
It's a little bit of process of elimination for me to take her in this race, though I'm not thrilled with her as a favorite. But you start looking through them. Okay, you've got Stress Reliever. Well, she's a Chad Brown horse that ends up with Brad Cox that ran just as badly for Brad as she ran for Chad. She has one good effort in the muddy seal track. Now, if it starts to rain, maybe that'll move her up a little bit. But she was atrocious last time.
Races
She
are
got
slow.
a fast contested pace to run against, and she really did absolutely no running in this race. And that climbing comment, if she was climbing, it happened so, it was like, it's like, remember what Ali would say,
Yeah.
like, if you blink, you'll miss
Yeah,
me
yeah.
throwing my punch. I think maybe I didn't see it because I blinked at the moment
Yeah, I
it
didn't-
happened.
yeah.
She's just not
She's
very
just
good.
not good. Her races are slow, and she's the type of horse that you got to work on her too to get her to run.
But-
like they had to 3 starts back.
Look who she's running against, and she is second off a layup.
Yeah.
Do you really want Street View, who got an absolute dream trip to win her one race, and she's 1 for 15? Do you want Saucy 6 in this race, who just looks like she's just as slow as
That is
anybody?
good, yeah.
And then there's Scarlet's Dream. And yeah, Scarlet's Dream runs her last race, that 69 buyer. She can win. And I'm guessing that that's a fig I know that was a fig that was moved way up, because I believe that Grammy's Girl and Spencer, Tiara had 70 buyers, and they ran, one of them won for fun, and they ran 1-2 in that allowance race
Yeah, Spencer
later.
Tiara, yeah.
And I have to believe that buyer figure was upgraded after that effort. It's one they probably thought was too low. The problem, and one of the reasons they probably had it lower, was they looked at Scarlet's Dream
Yeah, and
went,
slow.
well, how are we going to give her almost a 70 when she's never run close to it? And it's not as though she's coming in a barn that's been winning a ton of races lately.
Right.
They had a great Saratoga, but other than that, just not doing very well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when you look at her as a whole, too, I mean, if we do eventually end up getting range, she does not like an off track. And her fast track races just aren't as fast as some of these other horses. So it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other in her
Are her
case.
fast track races, I mean, other than race 2 back, which was coming off a 4-month layoff, are they really worse than her dry track races?
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, she is what she is.
And
you
she
know?
is going to be forwardly placed,
Yeah.
so it's not supposed to really affect her. Whereas the day that she was in the slop 2 back,
Yeah,
she was
she-
chasing and there was mud getting kicked in her face. Now she runs an outside post,
So she should be
and
in the
she's going to
same
be
spot.
stalking the number
Yeah.
5. So I don't think that she's going to be affected by a wet track.
And no, I don't feel that I don't think she's just good enough.
If you're
But, yeah.
well, if you think her last race is legit,
But yeah,
then she is good enough. She's better than all these horses, unless. But Patty Brown
I don't
at
think
least
she's
has
better
a few
than,
races
Yeah, I was
where
gonna say
she
I
ran
don't think she's
faster
better than the
things.
5, but you know, I just I mean, after the 5, it got very murky for me.
Tom Morley, I looked this up, and I think one of the things important for people when you look up stats first time for a tag through Formulator, is you got to make sure you're looking at non-maidens. Because, and I'll
Right.
make this mistake sometimes, and Aragona will yell at me, and he's right, in that you get maiden special and maiden claimers. You get
Together.
first time and maiden claimer. You don't want that. So with non-maidens first time for a tag in the dirt, it's a small sample for Tom, but he is 2 for 8 with 4 hitting the board and a 406 ROI. So he's had some success doing it. I agree with you. She's the worst to beat. You're going to give Street View a little more love than I will. Is this Linda love? Because she's been bad.
Yeah, she's been bad. I mean, 3 starts back again was the perfect trip, but she did have a 65 and a 64 prior to that. Again, if you believe
What
that,
happened the last 2?
no, I agree. Against Winter, she's been terrible. The maiden claiming races were okay,
hasn't
but against
lifted a
Winter, she's
hoof.
been terrible. But it's still a drop for her.
No,
We've seen these
you're-
horses with Linda before sometimes.
You're right.
So, but for me, it was just after Patty Brown eyes. For me, it was just like you roll the dice here because they all kind of look the same.
Yeah,
in
I'm
most
going to
regards.
use stress reliever. I feel like she could improve, but
Yeah.
man, you start looking at her. The more you look at her, the worse she
She's-
gets.
Yeah, I just feel like her races are slow. Listen, the drop down is
They
definitely
are.
needed. Her
They're
races
slow.
are slow, and she was
They're
a horse
bad.
that needed to be worked on every step of the way to win at that mile back in March. So
Well, she's got the right man for that
yeah,
today.
Manny,
Manny Franco,
Manny will
because
definitely
He's
100%.
not afraid of having
No.
a 2-minute workout
Yeah,
out there.
no,
that guy.
he'll stick at that horse, believe me. And if
he's
I
a
asked him, he would say
hard-riding
that's what I
rider.
had to do. So 100%.
Race number 7, another race where there's just not an enormous amount going on. We'll start with the number 1, Vamonos, who neither of us have in there. But could this horse be favored off of the last race? What price does David have this horse?
Was 7-2.
Okay.
7-2.
The problem is, what do you think the problem is with this outfit?
Speed did well, first of all, on January 8th.
What's second of all?
Well, I don't feel like.
I don't think there is a second of all. That's
Oh,
why
you
I'm
just think
saying.
that was it? Yeah. Because I
It's a
just feel like
huge speed track.
Yeah, and not for anything, that was the best number the horse ran, and I know the horse was best on paper.
He was
anyway
first time
that
for
day.
John Toscano,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe they moved him up. To
You
be
know,
fair.
but even still, the horse was still kind of best on paper that day anyway. But I can't make a case for this horse coming off of a track like that with a figure like that.
I agree.
Now it's going to draw inside, and with a horse like Western Wolf to his out.
Is Western Wolf really going to be the favorite in this race?
David's got 5-2, or maybe
Jeez,
because of
I
last
didn't
time.
th- I didn't think he'd be favored, but he's usually right. I don't think I'd have picked him as the favorite, but I don't really know where I would go in this race. Go ahead with the 5, Tapper's Temper. Well, I didn't think the 2 would be favored, but I'm obviously wrong.
No, I mean, with Tappert's Temper, last time he was just kind of in the same position off of Jerry's out and had Gimme latched on. And I don't think this horse wants any part of that mile. So when the real running started, he kind of backed up a little bit in that race.
He
So
ran the same figure, though. He runs basically going 6.
yeah, I mean, he didn't run terribly, though, 2 starts back, chasing Chipotle, who came back and put in a huge effort down at Laurel, picked up an 83 buyer in a race there. I thought, honestly, the cutback was going to help in distance for this horse sprinting and probably gets a decent enough trip off of whatever speed is in this race and maybe can get the job done.
I think he's logical if you don't like the 1. I mean, I'm just hoping the 2, Western Wolf, wires the field, and I'm guessing that's what David's thinking. He's going to be the speed in here, and that's why people like him. And I just thought he could wire the field. It was really as simple as that for me. It wasn't anything different than that. I don't love him at a short price. I just didn't like Just Clarity, who I thought kind of, I don't love the race the horse comes out of, but I guess not impossible for Dave Donk. Tycoon Mogul is the
interesting
fuzzy
horse,
in here.
yeah.
We'll take a look at the win at Gulfstream. I mean, it's enough dirt pedigree to say this horse could handle the dirt. It's sort of a strange horse, right? This horse is not a private purchase, but ships up here from Gulfstream, but also broke the maiden. Maiden 17.5 on synthetic. These are not good horses, but this horse handles the dirt. This horse could beat these horses.
Yeah, because he's tactical enough, as we saw in this race, because not a lot of horses swing 4 or 5 wide on that synthetic surface and actually rally sometimes. So
Really?
3 horses from the
Didn't,
last.
didn't Smoke and Tea do that this weekend?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying not many.
I don't
Some.
know. Okay.
Some, not many.
Doing a lot of bias work on the synthetic.
A lot
races
of
at
speed down
Gulfstream?
there. Holds. A lot of speed holds down there, though, on that surface. But there is definitely a lot of dirt influence, especially on the sire side and then the second dam sire.
Well, I don't think there's not a lot of negative. It's not one where you look it up and it's all a bunch of synthetic and turf performances.
Horses, yeah.
They're not very good, but they are kind of
Yeah,
more
and in the
dirty.
last race, too, it's tough to make case, too, because, as you said, the field 17.5, a couple of horses ran back. They all regressed coming at 3 of them.
It's a bad
actually
race.
did. Yeah, it was a bad race on its face, but it's a new face in a group of a lot of horses we've already seen. So, of course, it's maybe.
Is this really going to be 6 to 1?
I don't know. I think this horse is going to take some money.
I don't agree with David on that. I'm not. I don't see how a first-time Jamie Ness.
Yeah.
I also feel like, as you say, he's a new face in a field where we're all a little tired of the horses
seeing
we've seen,
everybody,
and the
yeah.
appeal of new faces is pretty strong. I don't think he's going to be the 5th choice in this race, but
No,
I'm not the morning
I
line
think
maker,
so.
and he's a heck of a lot better at that than I am. Race number 8 lost Hours in a Day, who I didn't like particularly, but was going to take some money in here. What are you doing here?
As You Chase Me, the 5 for me. So I know that this horse was super hard to make a couple of races ago, where his best races were on off tracks
Arizona liked him that day.
for the off.
Still have no idea how, but okay.
I mean, it was, the case you could have made, well, the only case you had from it, and I know it was a fast track today, his best horses, the best races for this horse were on wet track. So I was hoping for a little bit of moisture in the track, too, by the time this race
probably
came up.
get that.
But last time out was just wide versus better, going longer. So cutting back in distance, dropping here a little bit. So, and even 3 starts back, you look at the horse, kind of fought Javier around the racetrack, then put it together last time. 2 starts back last time was a little too long at 1 1/8. So just really the drop in class and the cut back for me today, and hoping to get a little moisture in the track for this horse and get a little bit of a price.
Listen, I picked an absurd horse in this race, so I'm not in a position to make fun of anybody. But I just took St. James, second off a layoff, dropping significantly, and just took a shot that this horse will show up. Has races that are good enough, but I have no confidence whatsoever. But at the end of the day, I just couldn't take Hey Toby to wire the field, and I think that's a little where you were, because like me, you have him second, but he is the controlling speed in this race. And I know he won 1.70 miles at Finger Lakes at 4 to 5, but he's just not a consistent horse. But he is in a position where he could lead this field on the merriest of chases.
It's one of those situations where you look at him and he ran his 2 best races when he was able to control, but they were also fields he was supposed to beat. So now the question is he's going to control in here, at least everyone would assume. But do you think he's good enough?
Get out of the gate, he's going to control.
I mean, but is he good enough to actually see it through and beat this field?
He is. He's got races that are good enough. I mean, I have
him second, so I'm not knocking it because just from the speed factor, I think he could be long gone in here. And he drops to the level of what his maiden claiming race was. So it's not like it's this humongous where you say, oh, my God, he can't win. They're dropping him.
And if we're both right to be dubious of Wake Surf,
yeah,
who's in this race that you're so afraid of?
Nobody.
And he gets in front of this field to boss them. Now, obviously, Wake Surf has a plethora of races that will absolutely smother this field. But I got to tell you something. This horse gets claimed by Tom Morley. Okay, he was a little aggressive and moved him up. I mean, come on. He was absolutely pitiful in that race.
He was bad.
It's not like Manny gave up on him. He was just bad. Manny was trying with him the whole way around the track, and he could not get this horse to run. And now you could say, well, maybe Tom's being more realistic, dropping him like this. Having said that, and Tom actually has good numbers, 50% drop on the dirt. He's 6 for 24, 14 hitting the board, and a 232 ROI. It just, you wonder if this guy can run at all anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. The last handful of races have just left a lot to be desired in here. And even if you want to say, okay, he cut back from the mile, still, he was placed in a good spot, but he was just working on it to stop.
He wouldn't have won that race.
Yeah, he
wouldn't
have won
4 furlongs to 40 furlongs.
No, he wouldn't have won it all.
He wasn't winning.
And granted, this is a lot easier than anything he's been facing.
It is.
But he's just not in good enough form right now to put him on top at a short price.
I agree.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when he wins this race, you're
I'm
not going to be like, gee, I can't believe that
I'm
Wake
not going
Surf
to be
won.
surprised.
But you're also going to be less surprised if you say, I can't believe Wake Surf ran badly again. His last race, I mean, watch it if you don't believe us. He was bad that day.
Yeah, and he tried, as you said.
See what happens. Thanks, Paul. Today's 8-race card, head on over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member, use the promo code BONUS200, and we'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. You didn't even comment on what a good banker I just.
You nailed that, too. It went right in.
Yesterday's is still over there on the ground.
That went right in.
That was, I have a lot of practice here. It's my game. Track stats. Check them out when you're over at Naira Bets as well. Also, we have a 20% double bonus at Oaklawn Park. Opt in for that. Check it out at NairaBets.com. We've got a cross-country Big Five, races 7 and 8 here at Aqueduct, and races 6, 7, and 8 at Oaklawn. And we'll be covering all the action from race 3 o'clock on here, as well as Oaklawn Park on FS2, America's Day at the Races. Greg, Maggie, and I are here. The MIG is at Oaklawn Park. Paul, thank you again.
Always.
Chris Griffin's up next. The reprise, the scratch and changes. Have a great day.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Aqueduct. At this time, we ask that you please rise, remove your caps as we honor America with the playing of the national anthem. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the New York Racing Association. Live racing here at Aqueduct, a Friday afternoon where the track is rated fast. 8 races on today's Friday afternoon card. Thank you for joining us here at Aqueduct, and here are today's scratches and changes. Race 1, start of the early pick 5 is clear. No changes in today's first. Race 2, start of the early pick 4. No show. Trifecta, superfecta wagering, scratch the 5. She's wicked smart. Race 3, start of the pick 6. Scratch the 3. 13, red flags. Race 4, start of the late pick 5. Scratch the 5. Collect for Mike. In today's 5th race, marks the beginning of the late pick 4. No show. No trifecta, no superfecta wagering. Scratch the 1. Sister Linda. Scratch the 4. Condiment Girl. Scratch the 5. Find your joy. Race 6. Scratch the 3. Beautiful Bolt. Scratch the 7.